You're on the right mic?
I don't know, dude. I just started recording.
I don't know either, but let's see if we can figure it out.
How about that one?
Okay, that sounds better. There was just an awful lot of clicking noise.
That's right. You're listening to another episode of the Co-Main Event Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. I'm Chad Dundas. That's Ben Folks. We're both longtime MMA journalists, and for nearly the last 14 years, we've been meeting here every week to break down all the action in the wild, weird, and occasionally wonderful world of mixed martial arts. And Ben, over the weekend, we had the first Meta Apex Fight Night event of the Paramount Plus era. And boy, did they ever let the audience know what was coming. I guess if you indeed believe that there is some manner of mythical UFC audience that is just joining us now for the Paramount Plus era, some new people signing up, they really got a taste of it here on this Fight Night Batista versus Oliveira card, where all but 4 fights went to decision. And you had a pretty terrible heavyweight fight right there in the middle of the main card, which came on the heels of another pretty terrible heavyweight fight on the main card of UFC 325 last week. So at the risk of repeating ourselves, I think we're going to talk a little bit about the heavyweight division this week.
It's trash.
Spoiler alert, it's trash. And in addition to that, we had BKFC over the weekend, where unfortunately, CME favorite, the Dark Lord, Ben Rothwell, was unseated as BKFC heavyweight champion by Andrei Arlovsky. So we'll talk about that probably during the second half of the show. I thought we could start here with this piece of listener mail that we got from Isaac Turner this week. He says, "Howdy, Chad and Ben. My question this week is, why is the heavyweight division?"
Okay.
That's my question. Why? Makes me want to jump off the Higgins Street Bridge.
Okay.
That last part is a reference here to the Co-Main Event podcast hometown, Missoula, Montana. The rest of it, obviously, a reference to Rizvan Kuniev's unanimous decision over Jailton Almeida at this UFC Fight Night card, and probably a little bit of a hangover from Taliesin Teixeira and Tai Tuivasa a couple weeks ago at UFC 325. I just want to point out, given that this Fight Night was, I think we can all agree, dog shit, I did not watch it live. I had to circle back and watch it after the fact. And let me just say, to even find these fights on the UFC page of the Paramount Plus app, I had to scroll down for like 5 minutes. I had to scroll down past every other UFC topic, including like Legends of the UFC and KO Time, things like that, before I finally got to a list of these fights from this fight night.
Wait, is it actually called KO Time?
I have something like that. I don't know. Some manner of like knockout collection.
We weren't exactly breaking our necks trying to come up with a creative name, is what you're saying?
Yeah. I did finally locate Rizvan Kuniev versus Jailton Almeida, and boy, was I glad I did, because this, even calling this the other kind of heavyweight fight might be an exaggeration. It might be too kind to this fight, because these two big boys did not do much in this fight. There were times, I think, for both guys where they were like, okay, here I go.
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing stuff. I'm going to throw a 4-punch combo if I'm Jailton Almeida. And then shortly thereafter, they were kind of like, nah, actually, I ain't doing shit.
Jailton Almeida is so frustrating for me to watch at this point. You know, his last fight against Sergey Spivak, this one, a guy comes over, got a good jiu-jitsu pedigree. You expect him to be able to do some shit, especially in a pretty shallow heavyweight division. Looks good getting off the bus, Chad.
Sure does. Knows where they keep the weights.
Looks like a guy who ought to be able to come over here and do some real business in this version of the UFC heavyweight division. And it's not only the way he fights, he has like a certain look on his face throughout the whole thing, as if he doesn't really want to be there, is bored of this shit, is completely uninterested, and then at the end always seems to think he has done amazing. And I don't get it, man. I don't know what you were thinking you were doing in there. Has he not seen the film of himself watching? Because I understand, hey, I've played sports before where you think you're doing great, you think you're really moving fast out there, you're lithe and athletic, and then you see the tape and you're like, actually, I am a mummy that's been dead for 5,000 years. That's good for me to know. It seems like he hasn't seen the tape, because he seems to think when he's out there doing this shit, there's just like minutes at a time where he's not doing anything. He's just kind of holding on. He's making a face like, this sucks. I wish I was at home. And I don't understand how he's letting this shit slip away when it seems like you have all the physical tools. You should be good at this. It just seems like you don't give a damn about it. And then to see he dropped down in the rankings with this loss, second straight loss, looked like garbage in it, and still is at number 8.
Mm-hmm.
Rizvan Kuniev debuts in the rankings at number 6. That, Chad, sadly, has finally knocked Tai Tuivasa out of the top 15.
Can we just, for a second, I know this was a terrible fight, right? And I'm not trying to make excuses for it or make excuses for Rizvan Kuniev, who did almost as little as Jailton Almeida in this fight, but kind of a travesty that guy wasn't in the top 15, right? Like, how do you even justify that, considering you got Tuivasa in there on the heels of like 5 straight losses? Rizvan Kuniev lost his fight to Curtis Blades in June of last year. Previous to that, he hadn't lost a fight since 2015. He had run off a string of wins in independent organizations. It actually took him 2 wins on the Dana White Contender Series, 2-0 on the Contender Series, in order to get into the UFC, which maybe tells us a little something about his performances. I don't know. I didn't see either of those fights, but generally, the first one was by stoppage. So for him not to get invited in,
they're both by stoppage.
Yeah, they're both by stoppage. But I mean, he had this no contest against Renan Ferreira in PFL that was originally a win for Kuniev, got overturned when he tested positive for banned substances. Other than that, this guy's been winning them all, and it's losing to Curtis Blades. There's no shame in that. A lot of people lose to Curtis Blades, and yet this guy's not even in the top 15.
Well, that was also his UFC debut, and so I understand why they don't want to, or why they might be reluctant to take a guy has not yet fought in the UFC, put him right in the rankings, and then he comes in there for his first fight, loses. You're right, loses a split decision to a guy like Curtis Blades, who's pretty good. So it's still, people are not going to come out of this where you're like 0-1 in the UFC. We're putting you in the top 15. Not when it might mean bumping Tai Tuivasa, who has to stay there.
Nobody loves Tai Tuivasa more than I do, but you take a guy who's 0-1 in the UFC, or you take a guy who's 0-5 in his last 5 or whatever.
This weekend, maybe yesterday, maybe it was even earlier today. Shit, I don't know. I was looking at the Instagrams, Chad. And it's the algorithm knows what I like at this point. And so it's serving me up highlights, like a highlight film somebody made that shows first Mirko Cro Cop knocking out Fedor's brother, Alexander. Shows Fedor's backstage reaction to it. And then shows highlights from the Fedor Mirko Cro Cop fight. Now, granted, I know we're talking about Fedor and Mirko Cro Cop, 2 of the best heavyweights at that time. But you're watching the fight that they had. You're watching these highlights from the fight. And you're going, man, this is so much better than anything happening at heavyweight in the UFC right now. Chad, that fight was in 2005. That's like 3 eras ago in MMA. And it was still way better, just in terms of like what the action, the pace, the quality of like technical striking that we're seeing. It just like the quality of athlete that they had in there. It's way better. It's 21 years ago. We hit a wall somewhere here. And it just seems like we talked for a while about how there's basically 2 heavyweight divisions, because you got a few good guys at the top and then a bunch of just guys who are big. That's all. That's all they bring to the table. And some of these fights, it just seems like whoever does something is going to win. But man, these days, especially with John Jones sort of walking away as heavyweight champ, Tom Aspinall out there trying to get his eyes fixed, it just feels like a goddamn wasteland of a heavyweight.
Well, yeah, will it make the people feel better if I tell them that Tom Aspinall just had surgery on both of his eyes? This is a post from Championship Rounds from 46 minutes ago. Tom Aspinall underwent surgery on both of his eyes, containing the quote, "Following his operation on both eyes, we continue the journey to get Tom's vision back to fighting shape."
Yeah, I mean, I think our guy Pizzi is up there. Was up there to pay him a visit and see how things are going up there. So yeah, hopefully, I think he's due to have a report out soon about what's going on with Tom. Latest updates heading into surgery this week, but it just feels like we've hit a new low in terms of just not only what there is for us to get excited about and what there seems to be on the horizon to maybe soon get excited about. There just doesn't seem like much going on at all, where it's like you can make a fight of actual top 10 heavyweights and still get dog shit out of it.
I mean, the heavyweight division has always been terrible. It has never once been able to get out of its own way at any stage of evolution in MMA. The entire reason that we had to have Randy Couture and Chuck Liddell and Vitor Belfort as the light heavyweight marquee standard bearers in the UFC, the fact that that was the best, most promotable division in the UFC, the whole reason that was because heavyweight was garbage. If they had heavyweight fighters that could put on shows like the light heavyweight guys and be as marketable as the light heavyweight guys, then we would have done that. They just didn't have them. And, on and on through the years of heavyweight being terrible. Although I agree with you, it does feel like right now things have gotten really bad. And in terms of there being two different heavyweight divisions, can you really even say that anymore? It kind of seems like there's just one heavyweight division now, and it's not great because you got Tommy Aspinall having surgery. You got Cyril Gahn sitting out there not making a peep. And then, as we'll talk about coming up during listener mail, John Jones talking about how, what did he say? His hip is, quote, covered with arthritis, something like that. I don't know how I don't know if that's how it works, but that's what John Jones was saying. So, I don't even know if we have a top level heavyweight division. I don't even know if there's a VIP lounge for the rest of these guys to try to fight their way into at this point. It just seems like dog shit from top to bottom.
Yeah, and you understand it a little bit where you look around and go, where are the American heavyweights? They're in the NFL. And so, okay, that makes sense. But what about the rest of the goddamn world? There's some big fellows out there from other countries. We used to rely on them for a lot of the heavyweights. I went back and looked it up just out of curiosity. The start of the Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix in 2011, February 2011. So almost exactly 15 years ago. We started with, in the quarterfinals, the first round, Fedor versus Bigfoot Silva, Alistair Overeem versus Fabricio Verdum, Andrei Arlovsky versus Sergey Karatanov, Josh Barnett versus Brett Rogers. That's where we started off.
That's a crop.
That's a crop, Chad. And that was in Strikeforce. That was in the lesser known MMA promotion at the time. I mean, honestly, this was arguably the biggest thing Strikeforce ever put together. This was the thing that seemed like, they started it and then got bought by Zuffa before they could finish it. Did finish it, but under Zuffa ownership, Daniel Cormier ends up beating Josh Barnett, goes on to become a 2-division champion. You also got, a guy, Fabricio Verdum, who went on to be a UFC champion. Josh Barnett had himself a pretty solid career. Andrei Arlovsky still out here doing it and bare knuckle, as we'll discuss a little bit. The Reem had himself a well-traveled career as a blown-up light heavyweight at this point, who had muscles coming out of his ears when he went to heavyweight. So, you had a bunch of those guys to choose from. You just feel like, man, are we just not attracting those guys in general in MMA anymore? Those guys got to still be out there. Are they all in kickboxing? We're trying to make a deal for them, like Hunter Campbell was saying, and we just can't lock it down. The UFC isn't willing to pay for it because it just seems like I don't expect heavyweight to have the top technical fighters out there, but I do expect it to at least be big, stupid fun. At least look like these guys are professional athletes. And a lot of times with these recently, you just look at it and you're like, all right, so I'm watching two big guys get tired and lean on each other. Christ almighty.
Yeah. I wonder if it has something to do with the lack of competition in the industry now. I wonder if it has something to do with the essentially monopolization that the UFC has on the MMA market and their inability to really get paid very much money, right? Because a lot of the guys that you just listed off in the Strikeforce Grand Prix and your examples of Mirko Krokop and Fedor Emelianenko, those were guys who, for the most part, started or made their names in Pride. Obviously, many of them had sort of roundabout journeys through MMA, but like people were getting paid money over there at that point. You saw a mass exodus of people from the UFC when Pride first started handing out those contracts. So maybe it seemed more attractive back in those days to get into the sport if you were a Mark Kerr, for example. Go over there, make some money. Now, what are you looking at? Are you starting out at 12-12? Are you having to fight your way off the Contender Series? Are you having 2 fights on the Contender Series before you even get into the UFC? Maybe for heavyweight guys, maybe there are a lot of more attractive opportunities, not even professional sports, perhaps, than going into MMA and getting your brains beat out for a relatively low sum of money. I am just thinking this as I am saying it out loud, so maybe I'm full of shit, but like, I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it.
This is a quote from Brendan Schaub.
Yeah,
I believe on his podcast.
Things have gotten bad when we're quoting Brendan Schaub.
The heavyweight division is so bad. It's such a shell of what it used to be. Even when I fought, it used to be so good. Go back and watch Pride heavyweight Grand Prix. Even Bellator 10 years ago was better than this current heavyweight division in the UFC. When I fought, it was the who's who. It was Murderer's Row. Now it's just a shell of itself, and it doesn't have to be. Somebody needs to step in and go, hey, man, this heavyweight division is dying, if not dead. You letting Brendan Schaub talk to you guys like that?
I mean, the truth is, like, we've killed divisions that had more talent, right? We've shelved divisions in the past that had more talent than heavyweight has right now. I have a thought exercise for you.
God damn, I love when you have a thought exercise.
If Bigfoot Silva were in the 2026 UFC heavyweight division in his prime, let's say, not wherever Bigfoot Silva is at today, but and I don't know what you want to say his prime was, honestly, but like, let's say Bigfoot Silva as good as he ever was in the 2026 heavyweight division, how well does he do?
I think he's top 10.
Well, yeah, he's higher than top 10, I think.
Where would you put it? Because I'm looking at the top 10 right now. Cyril Gane, Volkov, Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades, Waldo Cortez Acosta, Rizvan Kuniev, Sergey Spivak, Jailton Almeida, Ante Delia, Marcin Tybura. I think he's probably 7 or 8.
That's probably right. Although if you're going to tell me that either Sergey Pavlovich and Alexander Volkov is going to go out there and throw them thangs with Bigfoot Silva, it might be a coin toss. Might be a coin toss at times. Although, perhaps I'm discounting that these guys, by and large, are probably better trained and better athletes than a guy like Bigfoot Silva. But at the same time, for whatever reason, in terms of excitement and big fights, it's just not showing up in the cage.
He knocked out Alistair Overeem, knocked out Travis Brown, put Fedor away with a doctor stoppage, won a decision over Andrei Arlovsky.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Not bad for 2010, 2011, 2012 era heavyweight MMA.
That's pretty good, actually. What's to be done? I don't know. I don't know what's to be done besides giving us a bunch of money so you and I can start the monster factory and start producing the next generation of great heavyweights.
I mean, see, that's the thing. If you gave a damn, like the UFC again, that quote from Dana White where he was basically like, as long as you don't fuck up these parts, you can't fuck this thing up. And one of those parts, though, was talent acquisition. And so, like, if you actually gave a damn, being like, all right, how do we invest now so that heavyweight gets better? It's not gonna get better right away. You're like a college football team trying to get out of the cellar. You got to recruit. You got to bring guys in. It's going to take a little bit of time. But how do you do something now that's going to lead to a better heavyweight division 5 years from now? It doesn't. I don't get any sense that anybody's doing that. It just kind of seems like they're going like, oh, these guys will find their way here, and if they don't, we're still making a bunch of money.
I mean, I don't know that anybody's thinking anything about where any part of the sport is going to be in 5 years, let alone the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
Remember, you're listening to the Co-Main Event podcast proper. This show drops every Tuesday afternoon for free in your timelines and podcast libraries. But if you want even more of the Co-Main Event, you can find Ben Folks and myself all week over on Patreon. Hit us up at patreon.com/co-main event and get loads of extra audio and video content, as well as access to our official Discord message board, where they're talking about fights and a lot of other stuff literally all the time. Another great way to support the show is by going to co-mainevent.com and checking out our merchandise shop. We got t-shirts, we got hats, we got hoodies, we got lots more. Stop by and pick up our best-selling Daddest Man on the Planet coffee mug. While we can keep it in stock, you can get yourself a Dundasso t-shirt or hoodie, a Bobby Nux shirt, Volcomania shirt. We got it all. Just go to the website, co-mainevent.com, and click the link at the top of the page that says Shop. As always, we partner with our friend Johnny Ashcroft on the shop. He is a graphic designer from Portland, Oregon. We can't recommend him highly enough for all your design needs. Hit him up at studiosuperconductor.com or on Instagram at studiosuperconductor. And right now, like we always do about this time, let's do a little bit of listener mail.
Listener mail.
This piece of listener mail dovetails nicely with what we were just talking about. It comes from our guy, Spoonie Love from Up Above, who writes, The fall of Jailton Almeida. How fast it has arrived. From everyone's favorite title, Dark Horse 265, reduced now to top 10 gatekeeper. Seems like only a matter of time before we see him against Walter Walker, which signed me the fuck up for, but still seems like a disappointment upon further look. He dunked on himself there by putting his number 6 ranking on the line against Rizvan Kuniev on 2 weeks' notice. Sure, he reportedly got a new contract, but at this rate, do you think he finishes it out, or am I being too hard? Now, Ben, Yahoo has a story come out in the last couple of days that Jailton Almeida going back down to 205. To which I look at the man and I kind of think, how? But I don't know. That appears to be in the immediate plans for Jailton Almeida.
That seems to me like an example of the fighter's false friend.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that what is happening to him is that he's just being overpowered by bigger dudes in this division. That doesn't seem to be the problem. And honestly, it seems like if you go down a division, light heavyweight isn't exactly spectacular. It's not exactly the best version of itself it's ever been right now, but there are better athletes at light heavyweight, and they're not, a lot of them, they're not small dudes either. And so if your problem was just like you weren't going out there and doing enough, which seems to be the big part of Jailton Almeida's problem, then I don't see how that's going to get any better for you down there. If anything, those guys are going to make it more obvious that you are just not active enough and not aggressive enough. And I think like the upside of heavyweight being so shallow right now should be that if you could just string a couple wins together, if you just do a little bit more, you become somebody there. I think if he just, that's what makes him so frustrating, is that you look at him and you go, you seem like you are capable of so much more than what you're doing. If you would just decide to do it, I don't think that a lot of these people will be able to stop you. And you're not making that choice. At least that's how it looks on the outside. I don't know that gets better at light heavyweight. It just seems to me like you're going, something's going wrong here. I got to fix something. I got to show that I want that clean slate of showing up in a new division after I had 2 straight losses here. Let me just go over there and tell everybody it's a brand new me. I don't know, man. I don't know if that's going to work.
He did start out his UFC career with 6 straight wins as he was climbing the ladder, finished that up with back-to-back wins against the Biggie Boy, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and Derek Lewis. That was before he ran into Curtis Blades, and then followed that up with 2 wins against Alexander Romanov and Sergey Spivak, before now 2 straight losses to Alexander Volkov and Rizvan Kuniev. So I don't know. I feel like you could make the argument that we're writing Jailton Almeida off a little bit soon, that we're writing him off maybe before he could have a chance to turn it around. But I also agree with you that it does seem like he could do more. Like when you watch him out there, like he could, I mean, he basically started this Kuniev fight diving for takedowns from 3 feet out, like diving for takedowns that he was not going to get. And then, to his credit, I think started to try to open up a little bit as the fight went on and just couldn't sustain the momentum whenever he started throwing punches. But I don't know. Maybe he can make a turnaround here. He's 34, which is not ancient for a heavyweight. But,
no. Well, it also seems like that Volkov fight that they made for him, that was just in October. And it felt like that was the UFC being like, okay, win this one on, the undercard of this heavyweight title fight, and you're next. You'll put your name in the hat there, that you will be the next guy in line if you can just go out here, beat Volkov. And that was one where that was a classic. Does anybody want to win this kind of fight?
It was hilarious to see those guys point at the middle of the canvas.
Yeah, I was like, no, you should get fined. If you're going to fight like that, both before and after pointing at the middle of the canvas, you should get fined, if not suspended.
I mean,
you can't have this, dude. That's just not it. You don't deserve to do that.
One of the hilarious things was that even after they pointed at the canvas, they did so little that they had time to point at the canvas 3 more times in like the last 10 seconds.
Yes.
If they were getting busy, they wouldn't have time to point at the canvas 2 more times. Next question this week comes to us from Ben, the chimpanzee with rabies.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what that means, but
feels pretty specific.
He writes, now are we going to put some respect on Mario Batista's name after that performance in his debut as a headliner? Showed out on the ground, transitioning from crucifix to rear naked choke in round 2. And don't forget, he put up a valiant effort against Umar, dropping him in their fight and starting the downfall of Patchy Mix. More importantly, how come we never mention or hold in regard Mario Batista's scratchy-ass Death Before Dishonor tattoo across his chest, or the battle bred on his forearms he holds up together the same way we do Darren Elkins's Damage or Carlos Pratas's Muay Thai tats? Do you want to see the Sandhagen rematch, or maybe Aliman Zahabi or Peyton Talbot? I will say, as much as we, I think, rightfully can dump on this fight night event, Mario Batista did go out there and wear Vinicius Oliveira around like a hat in their main event fight. And that final sequence where he goes from crucifix to Kimura to the back take to the rear naked choke, honestly, that is as impressive a transition scramble from one thing to another as you will ever see. That was just like a thing of beauty for him to get the stoppage in this.
Yeah, and it looks kind of effortless for him too. It looked like he was another day at the gym getting that done. And yeah, he did look really good in this one. Also, I noted it at first because I was looking at how are the finish bonuses working out to motivate people. A lot of decisions on this card.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got somebody like Mario Batista, where it's really going to make a difference for him because he goes out there, he gets the $25,000 additional dollars for pulling off the finish. Also got a $100,000 fight of the night bonus. So, I mean, I don't know what his contract is on right now, but I would think he definitely earned more in bonuses than his contractual money. Probably, he walks out of there with 125 grand. But yeah, man, like he looked really good. Looked like somebody where you could see a whole lot of different possibilities for him right now. He's a tall, lanky guy for that division. You come out of a fight where you lose to Umar, that ain't so bad. I mean, that's the guy who beats you. You could put it together and come back and beat a whole lot of other people in that division. Also, good to hear from Ben, the chimpanzee with rabies from the 2026 horror film Primate.
Okay. All right. Yeah. As you said, very specific reference.
Yeah.
Next question this week comes to us from Daddy Medium Legs, who writes, you guys mentioned John Jones saying his hip is riddled with arthritis. He says he didn't mean for the public to hear that. It was some dude wearing meta glasses who put his shit on blast. Thanks, Zuckerberg. But then he did follow up and say he, quote, might be done fighting. Fucking hell, isn't it just like him to make even this process a huge pain in the ass? This is another thing to think about when you talk about the heavyweight division, right? Like, this is exactly how it would go for John Jones, potentially the greatest of all time, to move up to heavyweight, win the title, and now basically his career is immediately over.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, I don't know if you saw, I think maybe he was talking to the Schmo or maybe something, but like when he was out there doing all the Super Bowl stuff, and he was saying basically that like he didn't mean for everybody to hear him talk about how bad the arthritis in his hip was. And he said something where he was like, it was a guy wearing the meta glasses like I am right now too. You're just like, oh, okay. Are the meta glasses going to introduce us to a whole new genre of basically like hot mic-esque fuck ups where people are saying shit that they didn't mean for everybody to hear. But then he admits that it is true and that his hip is all fucked up and everything. You saw him running in that flag football game. He didn't look like a guy who definitely doesn't have arthritis in his hip. Like I could believe it after seeing that. And so for him saying like, okay, here's this quote that I was interested in when I followed this link. He says, what's up next from what is he going to do if he's not going to come back and fight? He says, oh man, just being a happy guy. That's it, man. Expect John Jones to continue to grow as a human being. I'm going to pause here. Expect my best, just the way that I give back to others and try to impact these younger fighters. And I think my best self is on its way. And that's a person without fighting. And I'm excited to meet this guy, to forge this guy.
What guy does he think he is, man? Like, what guy is John Jones looking at in the mirror to tell him that any of those things are true?
I mean, I agree that this could be the time when he becomes the best version of himself, if only because he has not. I don't think we've hit a high water mark in terms of character already in John Jones's life. It is entirely believable to me that you could do better as a person than what you've done already. So, sure. I'm a little bit, I think we need to maybe improve our self-awareness a little bit in order to get there. I also think when he's saying, oh, I'm really looking forward to finding out who I am in this life without fighting, and you're kind of going, well, historically, in those times in between fights and when you didn't have that occupying a lot of space in your life, that's kind of when you've gotten in trouble. So I hope that you have a plan for how to address that. But the stuff where it's just like, all right, you retired, then you heard there was an event at the White House, you wanted to come back. Now you're saying you got a grandpa's hip in there and you think you might be done. And I feel like, man, let's call it. We're not going to do it. Like, let's stop asking about it. Let's stop talking about it. Let's just say it. Like, you didn't necessarily think you were going to stick with that retirement, but maybe you're going to have to.
Next question this week comes to us from Dr. Leo Spaceman, who writes, last week's episode of a show that will not be named, upon which Ben appeared as 1/3 of the sensible bunch on the broadcast, exhibited the fight circusification of the UFC's matchmaking. What are the potential causes of recent and future fight bookings that disregard rankings? The Paramount deal, the White House card, fighter injury. 4 champs fought recently. 3 are out with injury, and the only title fight on the schedule is for the BMF title, which is on the only numbered event scheduled between now and the White House card in June. What are the chances of a title fight being scheduled for a numbered event before the White House card? What belt is most likely to be on the line before June? What is going on here? Now, Ben, we talked about last week on the Power Hour on Friday over on the Patreon page that Dana White and Hunter Campbell and a few other UFC employees appeared under oath in the Las Vegas court, to civil court, to talk about, to be deposed, basically as part of one of these ongoing class action lawsuits against the UFC, during which Dana White made it sound like he doesn't have a hell of a lot to do with the UFC anymore. Not involved in contracts, not involved in matchmaking, et cetera, et cetera. He came out this week, it was either today or yesterday, saying, hey, this weekend we are matchmaking the White House card, and the fights are going to be coming together next week, so we'll know what's happening. At this point, man, just seeing how things have played out for the start of the Paramount Plus era, I wouldn't be surprised if you did see 4 or 5 title fights on this White House card. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to stack this thing from top to bottom, just so it can be what it is, title fight after title fight.
I mean, it would at least explain why there are no title fights happening before then.
Yeah.
Because right now, like, if you look at it, you look at the numbered events that are on the calendar. You got 326 in the first week of March, and that's the BMF fight with Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira. And then you got 327 in April in Miami, and there's no headliner really announced for that so far. Nothing, no title fight on that. You've got to think, you got to put something on that so that it feels like you actually have a main event. But other than that, like, it doesn't look like there's a space where you would put a title fight until the White House. So I guess it would at least make a skull go, aha, there was a reason why we weren't doing those. It also, though, that's going to affect you on both sides of the White House event, because it's like if you go these months without a title fight just so you can have them all on the White House card, it means you're going to then go at least some months on the other side of it, because those guys are not going to be able to turn right around and fight again and defend the title. So you're creating a scheduling issue for yourself by doing it that way. We've also talked a little bit about how it's a logistical nightmare for somebody trying to put together a TV broadcast, where if you have a whole bunch of fights that could end in 30 seconds or could go 25 minutes, not counting all the time in between rounds and walkouts and all that other stuff, like, that's kind of hard to plan around for live sports broadcast reasons. So, like, that could be tricky. But it also seems like, another one of those instances maybe where Donald Trump just says some shit and then the people around him have to figure out how to make that shit at least somewhat plausibly true. I did find it interesting that Dana White, suddenly very involved in the matchmaking right after saying that he wasn't. But this one, this shit has been talked to death, and it's still only February, man. This shit is not until the middle of June. We've been talking just every week. It seems like he has a new fight that somebody suggests that he shoots down. No, that will not be on the White House card. That's just all he's done. And it's always just been like, I don't know, let us get through this one. Then we're going to sit down. We're going to make this card. It's going to be great. All this shit. So it's like, man, you got to come out with something soon, right? You got to at least start telling people something about this card.
But it's also so far in advance that I guarantee you, if they release a fight card next week, that's not the fight card you're getting in June. Some of
just
those people
MMA being MMA, you mean?
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what the proposed fight card looks like. We got a very long email from Big Unk, who wrote in to say, first, a confession, your boy doesn't exactly have a jam-packed social calendar. So when a friend was having a B-Day party on Saturday night, I didn't have to think too hard about missing, in all caps, the first event on Paramount Plus coming from the Meta duplex. Another confession, I hardly ever watch the fights in real time. I'll catch up the next day via totally legal above-board free methods. That said, I basically always watch all the fights. Yes, all of them. Like I said, my social calendar is not popping off. And while I do have other responsibilities, I enjoy watching fights. I believe I must be among the shittiest of shit-eating wild people. But even I couldn't do this fucking card. God, it sucked. It had a few recognizable names that I care about, but the actual fights themselves were total dog shit. Basically all the fights except the main event, wherein one fighter was either poo or his cardio was poo.
Wow.
And Nico Price's summary execution all went to decision, and not the fun kind of decisions either. Oh no, we're talking the other kind of heavyweight fight type of decision. Who is watching this steaming pile of garb? Hardcores aren't. You definitely aren't attracting any new fans with this. Is it gambling degenerates? Love you both, big time / long time. Big Unk.
Is Big Unk angling for an invite to more social events? Is that what this is about, Big Unk? You mentioned a couple different times that there's not a whole lot going on socially. Is Big Unk just being like, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't watch some of these if somebody would invite me over and somebody would, just tell me when we're making plans. But anywho, my address is bigunk@hotmail.com.
Hey man, if anybody out there knows Big Unk, reach out.
Invite him to some stuff. He wants to be involved.
Plan some outing. Bowling. Take Big Unk bowling. Might be a great time. Again, sad to say, but this is in the same genre of listener mail that we get all the time. Just people basically being like, this shit sucks. I can't watch it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and this, especially, I think people are like, do you notice the vibe was different in the Apex this time, just because now we're doing some ticket sales, we're getting some people in there, but I was like, oh God, no, did we get our wish granted and turned out that it sucks? Because you could hear just people, like, individual assholes can make themselves so much more heard at the Apex at these kind of things now, where it's like an individual asshole can show up and become a larger part of the reason for why the experience sucks for everybody else. Whereas if you're one of 18,000 in like a hockey arena somewhere, you can make shit suck for the people directly around you, but definitely not for the viewer at home, not for everybody else in the arena. Here, you can be a dick and everybody has to deal with you at the Apex. And it creates a vibe at times that I really did not like. I also wonder, like, what those people, because those tickets from what we saw are not exactly cheap. And it's like, imagine if you were like, hey man, do you want to go see a basketball game? Lakers and the Celtics are playing. But then you go and it's in like a high school gym, and it's some of the guys, it's some, like, some guys maybe you've heard of, like LeBron's not there. Obviously LeBron's not going to play at this one, but it's some guys where you're just like, some of these guys are brand new to the NBA. Some of them maybe been around a little bit. And you're sitting there, and then there's some bro wooing it up and shit like that, and drunk off his ass. And you're going like, this is not the experience necessarily I thought I was buying a ticket for. I thought I was buying a ticket for like an NBA experience, and I come and have a totally different type of experience. That is essentially what the Apex is offering you, both as a viewer at home and like as a live event viewer. So it's a very different kind of thing. And it is at this point where it's like, when I even just like see a card is at the Apex, not only do I know that means the UFC sees this as the lowest tier of their programming, but it also means like when you watch it, in some ways, it's going to be a little bit of a downer. It's not that like big arena, everybody's excited, it's Saturday night, and these are some big time fights on the biggest stage in the world kind of vibe.
Last listener mail we got this week came from Todd Anthony Shaw. The subject actually said Unk Alert. So maybe he can get in touch with Big Unk. Maybe they could hang out. He writes, bet you guys didn't even know that Charles Crazy Horse / Felony Bennett was still fighting. I can't lie, I didn't know either. I didn't even know he was still living. Then I saw him put an ass whipping on a 20-something American dude who goes by the Irishman at BKFC this weekend. Now a test without looking it up. How old do you think Charles is right now? And we will talk about that plus some other BKFC stuff right after this. Well, Ben, how old do you think Charles Crazy Horse Bennett is?
Okay, I mean, I did see him on this BKFC fight card, and I was surprised at how well he did, honestly. I should have paid attention to how old he was because he looked old. It looked like there's a little bit of gray in the hair now at this point. I'm going to say 50.
Wow. Okay. I was going to say 42.
What?
Okay. I'm going to click the link. Are you ready?
Okay.
It's 46. So
oh, shit. Well, that
split the difference between your guess and my guess.
He's the same exact age as me. That's what you're saying. I don't like that. I don't like it. This is just like me finding out that Andrei Arlovsky and I are born in the same year. I don't like it. I don't like knowing this. Why would you do this to me, Todd Anthony Shaw, also known as Too Short? You want to know how I Googled it. You want to know how old Todd Anthony Shaw, better known as the rapper Too Short. You want to know how old he is? Take a guess.
58.
Wow, you're good at this. He's 59.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Too Short turns 60 in April. Are you ready for a world in which Too Short is fucking 60 years old?
They're all getting up there, man. They're all getting up there in age. It's just a thing that's going to happen.
Did you see this fight?
I did not. I did not see this one.
So he goes out there. First of all, I was home on Saturday night. My wife had dance stuff going on at the university. I went and saw the show Friday night. Ain't no need for me to turn around and go back on Saturday night. So I'm at home alone. I'm flipping back and forth between the UFC at the Apex, BKFC on YouTube, watching a little bit of that Olympics over there on the Peacock. Love to get in there and just learn just enough about various Olympic sports to still be totally fucking clueless as to what's going on. And I didn't know he was on this card. Charles Bennett walks out and I'm going, holy shit. He's out here. He walked out, Chad, had a great entrance, really soaked up his moment there in the entrance. He was wearing a Burger King crown, like the little cardboard crown. I didn't even know they still did that at Burger King. He was going out and it looked like one he got earlier that day. Like he had gone to the drive-thru and was just like, please, can I have a crown? He walked out there. He fought this dude, much younger dude than himself. And there were some moments where, he's doing Charles Bennett stuff. Like not exactly, he's not fighting with his hands up a whole lot. He's diving in and out. He's going to give you a show. He's just kind of winging punches. And he was getting pieced up at various points. But then he'd land just like one big shot. He landed one big shot in the side of this dude's head and dropped him in the first round. And you could see that it had fucked up. Like the dude seemed like he was in pain, like maybe broke his orbital or something. He goes back to the corner after round one. And like they were trying, the cut man's trying to like get some ice on it. You could see it's hurting him so much just for anybody to even touch his face. And he keeps being like, no, I'm done. And his corner talks him out of it. They're like, no, come on, bro. What are you doing? No, you don't want to end like this. You can beat this guy. Like, come on. He tries to say several times that he's done.
That's not what the corner is supposed to do. Where's the ref at in all this?
Where's somebody from like a commission to keep an eye on it? And because, the ref can't be in both corners everywhere all at once, but he kept trying to say he was done. They managed to talk him out of it, talk him off that stool back into the fight for round two. And then he goes out there in round two and Crazy Horse just like plants him through the ropes, basically just lands a good shot and just rocks his shit. And at that point, you can kind of see the guy like almost wanting to look over at his corner and be like, I fucking told you guys.
Oh man, that is not what you're supposed to do if you're working a guy's corner.
He was clearly done after that point, but I was like, God damn it. Fucking Charles Bennett. He goes out there, he's still going to give you a Charles Bennett kind of fight.
Yeah.
Whether he wins or loses, and he's been, I think, doing a whole lot more losing than winning, but he's still going to go out there and do that shit, man. And there's something about it, something about a guy who has just always been that same guy that at some point you got to appreciate, especially when it is kind of shocking that he's still alive at this point.
16 straight losses.
Wow.
For Charles Bennett between 2017 and 2024. 16 straight losses. And that's just in MMA. He was out here also losing fights in bare knuckle in 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2024. He lost his fight in Fight Circus as well.
Man, I mean,
that's a lot of losing.
They still keep calling him, keep giving him a paycheck to fight because he'll bring a certain kind of excitement.
He does bring a certain kind of excitement. You want to talk about this heavyweight fight? Our guy, Ben Rothwell, who we had really had high hopes for and loved to see all of his success in BKFC, really felt like he had found his lane as a bare knuckle boxer, just looking huge and intimidating and beating the shit out of people. Ran into Andrei Arlovsky over the weekend. Ends up, I believe, got stopped on cuts, right? Because he had a huge gash up on upper forehead area.
Yeah, well, he had one up on his forehead, like a pretty bad one there, and he had another bad one around his eye. So yeah, he got stopped on cuts, but it wasn't looking great for him. Yeah, it was kind of Andrei Arlovsky seemed like he was kind of in control of the fight at that point. He did, when he walks out, he really leans into the Dark Lord shit over there in BKFC, where they don't mind putting on a show. He's out there, the smoke, the eerie music, the black robe, and everything. I gotta say, Andrei Arlovsky looked pretty good, looked pretty comfortable in bare knuckle here, and looked like he just had the quicker hands. Rothwell clearly has developed a style for bare knuckle boxing, and it's a style that I think works, especially against a lot of these guys where when he's the bigger man, or when he can kind of control the range a little better, up against our Andrei Arlovsky, who is about as big as he is, and seems like these days is moving pretty well. It seemed like it just didn't work quite as well. He was landing some punches too, but it seemed like Arlovsky was just able to get to him and to get off first in a lot of these exchanges. And you know how it is with those BKFC. It really doesn't take much, man. You let these guys land a couple punches, and the next thing you know, people are all split up. Yeah, it really doesn't take too many shots to fuck some people up, especially at heavyweight.
Yeah. Andrei Arlovsky probably energized by his recent brawl with the security guys for those YouTubers, right?
Man, you're one of those security guys, and you see this, you're just like, yeah, I don't know if I want to be talked into fucking with this guy just because I'm on the payroll of some annoying fucking twerp on YouTube.
Man, you were very into this BKFC event. You were sending me updates all week last week on Twitter, on the grams. Just you were making sure that I didn't miss a moment of the insanity from Fight Week last week for BKFC.
Well, and I'm going to tell people the thing that you expressed the most interest in was the thing I sent you, the clip I sent you from the weigh-ins where the one girl had her whole ass out. And there was some kind of message, like there was like one word on one cheek and one word on another, and they were whipping each other and shit like that. That was the one that finally got your attention. When I told you about the cannoli guy, the fucking cannoli guy showed up with a giant cannoli, threw it at his opponent at weigh-ins, and then immediately fell off the stage.
I mean, I feel like you are
the cannoli guy won.
Yeah, you're giving me a bad rap. You are painting a picture of me that I don't feel like is the most complimentary here.
I won't say it's complimentary. I'll say it's accurate. I'll say it's what happened.
Look, I'm into the cannoli guy. I feel like it was me who brought to your attention last week that it might be the cannoli guy.
Yeah, you did do that, but I'm just gonna say that when I sent you the cannoli guy thing, and you just wrote "I mean," and just kind of left it like that, and then when I sent you the girl with her ass out, you wrote back, "I'm listening."
I mean, okay, fine. Yeah.
It also, what does she have on her ass now that it says like "feel love"? It's interesting choices being made there. I'll tell you what, though, as a guy who's sitting here flipping back and forth between UFC Fight Night at the Apex and BKFC in an arena in Philadelphia, I can tell you which one delivered more excitement, and it wasn't close. It was not close at all.
Was it PFL Dubai?
That one was earlier in the day. I was otherwise engaged.
Okay. Yeah.
Missed that one.
Probably just looking at that Instagram video of that girl at the BKFC weigh-ins. That's what you were doing.
Just really trying to figure out what it says. That's all. I'm studying it. It's a difficult font to figure out.
All right, that's going to do it this week for the Co-Main Event podcast. Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate the support. Ben and I are both gone on competing vacations over the next couple of weeks, so we will have some content over on the Patreon page. But just looking at when we're going to be gone, it might be a while before we get back to the proper.
Might be a little bit of time, but we got some stuff lined up for you. Got some special guests and whatnot.
It would be a good time to jump over on the Patreon page, see the special guests. We'd love it if you would join us over there, patreon.com/co-main event. If not, I guess we'll see you when we see you, man. So, think about that when you're trying to make your decision.
You think about that.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support. As for right now, we are done. We are through. We are out.
When are you and I going to go get those ass tattoos? We keep talking about it, but we never follow through.
You know what? Next holiday, the next time a holiday rolls around, we'll get commemorative tattoos. President's Day. Get a couple of President's Day tattoos.
You thought about what you want yours to say?
It's going to be a picture of James K. Polk.
Okay. Naturally.
Probably with an inspirational quote from him.
Yeah, I was going to go man in the arena on mine.
Let's see here. I just Googled James K. Polk quotes. No president who performs his duty faithfully and conscientiously can have any leisure.
Huh. Yeah. No, that works. No golf
Peace,
is what he's saying.
Yeah. Peace, plenty, and contentment reign throughout our borders, and our beloved country presents a sublime moral spectacle to the world.
That's a lot of real estate you're going to need for that one.